American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Established as the state capital in 1812 on the eastern banks of the Scioto River, Columbus, Ohio has grown in the past 173 years into a major center for commerce and industry. We have visited Columbus several times to bring you action from nearby National Trails Raceway, home of the National Hot Rod Association Spring Nationals. Today, we're here for a different type of hot rod. Those that compete in the International Motorsports Association category of GTO and GTU as they take to the streets for the inaugural running of the Columbus Performance Classic. I'm Ed Bruce, standing on the banks of the Scioto River. All indicators point to an exciting, challenging day of racing today as these sleek, well-muscled racing machines take on this 2.27-mile, 11-turn road course. But there'll be action aplenty, so let's go to Brock Yates and Steve Evans at the track.
As we look at the landmark Levesque Tower here in downtown Columbus, I'm reminded that this community is considered to be very conservative and well-ordered, where the police, as they do all over the state of Ohio, very diligently enforce every traffic law. But once a year, starting today, there'll be no red lights on the signals in downtown Columbus. The police have put away their traffic citation books, and they're directing a little traffic, hoping that they, too, can get a good look at this inaugural road race on the streets of the state capitol. Now, we will be seeing two classes in today's race. On the pole for the GTU class is Bob Earl in the number 55 Pontiac Fiero. But first in line in the GTO class is the first driver who will find out what it's like to go the wrong way on one-way streets, to turn right instead of left, as the citizens have to do. And Brock Yates is with that pole sitter.
Thanks, Steve. And on the pole is the fine young racing prospect from Thunder Bay, Ontario, John Jones. John, congratulations, first of all, on the first ever pole in GTO here at Columbus. And tell me, what are your thoughts before we get ready to go?
Well, I'd like to thank you for that, but I think the race is really going to be a thing of strategy right now because there's so many cars in this race, and with the GTU cars and GTO cars running together, it's going to be a lot of traffic, and it'll probably make a big difference. I mean, we're going to have to really pick our way through, and a lot of places you can get held up if you don't get in there right clean, so we're going to have to really push the traffic hard. As far as that, I think it's going to be a fun race, and if we keep it off the wall, we'll be looking.
Got a bunch of folks behind you. They're going to try to get by in that traffic, so I'm sure you got to pay attention, huh?
Oh, I will be.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck.
All right.
And you know, John and the rest of the people behind him have got one major challenge to face, and that is this very tricky, very, very tight course here at Columbus. Let's take a look at it.
But, Brock, another adjective the racers are using to describe this course is fun. Among the 11 turns, there's a lot of tight ones. In fact, 90 and 180 degrees. But the turns are wide. You can pass, you can slide. The racers give this course an A+ as compared to other street courses around the country. And as always, before the race begins, we're going to make sure you get a driver's eye view of this course. Now, this entire weekend has been a festival of speed and excitement, including a GTP race featuring one of the most exotic cars in all the world of racing, the Ford Probe. Doc Bundy, one of two Ford Probe drivers, a former Le Mans champion, graciously volunteered to take our camera and you along for the ride. And you can feel secure because this man has a set of credentials. A former Le Mans champion, as I mentioned, also a former winner of the Miami Grand Prix, has been among the winning driving team at the Daytona 24 Hours. Now, we are inside the Ford Probe as Doc warms up the turbocharged 4-cylinder 900 horsepower Ford motor. From our camera in the Fuji blimp, we take a look at Front Street. That's where the finish line is located, where the laps will be counted, and where Doc talks us through.
You're in third gear past start finish, shift into fourth. Under the bridge, careful of the bumps, and back down the box to first gear, nail the gas, slide out to the wall, shift up to second, third, fourth, setting up to go under the bridge.
Hang on, because now we encounter the narrowest part of this course, under a railroad trestle, as Doc rockets down towards a turn specially made for this race.
As you approach the new fabricated turn for this course, you're hard in fifth gear, about 180 mile an hour. Tuck it in towards the guardrail. Aim at the corner of the guardrail as you come back out onto Long Street. We're approaching the underpass in fifth gear. Just tuck it to the right, flat in it. You come off of this, you're going to tuck it back to the left, aim for the corner of that wall, drop down into fourth. Heavy on the brakes, third, second, and then hard in it in first gear. Let her slide to the guardrail, quick shift to second.
The slow-moving Scioto River and the skyline of Columbus make this such a picturesque course. Two bridges involved. On your left, that's the Broad Street Bridge. You'll come over that, then cover that section of the course at the bottom of the screen. Now, yet another bridge. You'll make a left turn over the Town Street Bridge twice across the Scioto.
We're in third gear on Marconi, approaching the Broad Street corner. Slide onto the bridge, quick shift up to second, and then let her go up, over on the bridge, quick shift into third, and hard on brakes.
And then a very tricky, bumpy left-hand turn onto Washington Boulevard that bends very easily to the right. Now, coming up that second bridge we talked about, hard brake, left turn onto the Town Street Bridge goes the probe.
We're on top of the hill on Town Street Bridge, in third gear, approaching Civic Center Drive. Hard on the brakes, out to the wall, grab second. Up to third, it's bending around to your left. Now fourth. Now hard on the brakes. Drop her down to first gear, to the right, aim right at the wall. Keep it in tight, stay to the right. Now back to the left, onto Front Street, nail it. Slide to the wall, second, third, and now we're crossing start finish.
Whoa, Doc, I just have one question. When do I get to drive? What a machine and what a driver. Our thanks to the Ford Motor Company and Doc Bundy for the use of the probe. We won't soon forget the trip he gave us around the Columbus Performance Classic course.
Steve, we got a good one coming up. The GTO and the GTU cars of the IMSA series, they're going to put on a wild show here. The pace lap is underway. John Jones, the young man on the pole, but beside him, another one of the hot shoes in this field, Darren Brassfield.
Chevrolet has sent in Craig Carter in the Camaro. Lynn St. James off a victory just a week ago. She solo drove to a win at Watkins Glen. Olympic decathlon champion Bruce Jenner. What a field.
And the Pontiac of Steve Millen, let's not forget him, one of the best off-road drivers in the country. Wow, and don't forget also, Steve, we got the GTU guys. They are the under 3-liter cars in this field. They're going to start back a bit, but it's going to be just as wild a collection of drivers in that field. Jack Baldwin, in particular, the reigning champion among the GTU guys. He's going to be a factor today.
And he'll be challenged by a pair of feisty Fieros, Clay Young and Bob Earl. You know, they call these stock cars, Brock, but they don't bear any relation to what you find in the supermarket parking lot.
Also, let's not forget, too, that this is not a permanent race course here in downtown Columbus. A whole bunch of volunteers put up these concrete barriers literally overnight to turn the city into one of the most spectacular racing venues you're going to find anywhere. Going to be really exciting. This is the first time anybody has run an anger here at Columbus, and they couldn't have put together a better field to try it out.
Now, I mentioned the word stock car earlier. Now, these are not like NASCAR stock cars. These are very exotic racing machines. The only thing stock is about a foot of the roof on these cars.
And that'll probably be about the only part of the cars that don't get up against these narrow fences here. This is going to be a wild, wild race as they go around that tight hairpin at the end of the long straightaway. We're going to go down to a start. We'll be back for the green flag at Columbus.
American Sports Cavalcade is brought to you by Dodge Trucks and your local Dodge dealer, by Stroh's and Stroh Light, the circle of sports beer, and by Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
The 1985 NHRA Pro Stock champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 1986 street version, tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 86 SCCA GT1 champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 street version, tires, Goodyear Eagles. The 85 IROC champion, tires, Goodyear Racing Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
Who's going to help the car buyer cut through all the confusion over finance rates? Who else? Chrysler Corporation, that's who. With cash, not confusion. $500 or $1,000 cash back on every car and truck we build in America. Need it for the down payment? Use it. Want the cash? Take it. $500 or $1,000 cash back. Plus our $550 protection plan. You made us the fastest growing car and truck company in America. So your Dodge dealers say, thanks again, America. And nobody says it better.
Rise and shine, cast your line, catch the limit here. Now you're talking fishing, now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's is smoking here.
Stroh's, fire are brewed for smooth, consistent taste.
Now you're talking Strohs. Now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times. And Strohs is spoken here.
You won't believe what's happening inside your muffler. Rust that starts on the inside is eating its way through. The Napa Advantage muffler with Absorbite helps prevent internal rust. The inside of this muffler was not protected with Absorbite. This muffler was. You can see the difference. The Napa Advantage is even covered by a lifetime warranty. Of course, you may never have to use it. The Napa Advantage. It puts rust at a disadvantage. Available at thousands of Napa outlets.
Columbus, Ohio, the capital of the Buckeye State, is about to explode on the streets with the action of IMSA GTO and GTU stock car road racing. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, and we are on now what should be the final pace lap. A big concern of the drivers and the men that build these cars are gearing and drivetrains. You've got to get the gearing exactly right for this tight course. And in earlier competition this festival weekend, we have seen a lot of breakers of drive shafts and transmissions. Earlier, Brock had a chance to delve a little deeper into the subject of gearing.
We're inside the Roush Protofab tractor-trailer transporter that brings the three Mustangs, the Lynn St. James and John Jones and Bruce Jenner, to racetracks like Columbus. And normally you'll find them full of cars, but right now they're out on the racetrack, or at least in the pit area. So all we're left with inside here is a bunch of fuel cans and some spare engines, and believe me, hundreds and hundreds of gears. The gears, in fact, are the key to performance in a race car. We always think about a race car maybe just being raw horsepower out of the engine and maybe the brakes that have to work, but race teams like Roush can tailor-make a race car to work on a racetrack like Columbus simply by working with the gear sets, not only with the gears in the differential in the rear end. This is a 350 gear, which gives them good mid-range acceleration coming off the tight corners here, but more important even than that is this Wiseman transmission. Now, in racing a stock sedan, or essentially a stock sedan like the Mustangs, the transmissions you find in your showroom just don't have enough beef in them to really work well. So everybody is converted to a custom-built transmission. This particular one is built in California by a man by the name of Pete Wiseman. It's aluminum, it's 5 speeds, and it has the capability of being infinitely adjustable in terms of the gear sets and the 5 speeds, so the race teams can take their gear ratios and infinitely select them to make the race car work best. Here at Columbus, it's a requirement for second gear, essentially. All the corners are tight and quite slow, so you've got to have the second gear ratio work absolutely perfectly. And if you're a well-prepared team like Roush is, you come with a ton of gears, maybe 50 or 60 sets of them, and before practice is over, you can be sure that guys like Roush and his crew have the transmissions perfectly set up for running at Columbus.
Well, Brock, the drivers are about to find out who race programmed their transmissions properly. They're coming down Spring Street. They'll make that tight lap, the keyhole, Camel Corner it's called, up onto Long Street, where the starter platform is located. Let's see if we have a start to the Columbus Performance Classic.
Well, here comes Jones, and he's got the green flag. John Jones out front. But look at this, Steve. Craig Carter in the Camaro is slipped underneath Darren Brasfield to take over second spot. Brasfield in third, and that red Brooks Thunderbird also gets taken by Tommy Riggins in one of the Dingman brothers Firebird out of Florida. They've got 2 cars in there, Steve. One with Millen and one with Riggins. 2 strong runners.
And the bright red number 77 Thunderbird of Darren Brasfield has slipped from the front row back to the 4th position as they come over the Broad Street Bridge, make that top left-hand and bumpy turn onto Washington Boulevard, and head for the Town Street Bridge.
Steve, we've seen Tommy Riggins and Craig Carter go at it in the Kelly American Challenge. Not such a factor in the GTO, GTU competitions, but right now those 2 guys are giving Brasfield and Jones everything they ever expected.
Hard on the gas is John Jones down the flag-draped Civic Center Drive, headed for Broad Street, where he'll make a right-hand turn and then a very quick left up on to Front Street.
John Jones, 20 years old, a kid that's come out of Canadian racing. There goes Darren Brasfield, only 22 years old himself a couple of real kids. Tommy Riggins and Craig Carter were in the middle of that Ford bracket, are a little bit older, a little more mature drivers.
It was only a few years ago when critics complained that motor racing had a lot of gray hair in it, but weren't in the upcoming young drivers. Take a look at that.
Oh, boy. Darren Brasfield on his way to an IndyCar ride here later in this season. A brilliant young driver. John Jones, a great future ahead of him as well.
Ford has so dominated IMSA GTO racing and SCCA Trans Am racing that the Chevrolet execs, and there's plenty of them, have got to be riding with that number 2 car right there. Actually, number 56, Craig Carter in second spot.
And the Firebird, of course, of Tommy Riggins back there in third place. The Dingman brothers have fielded terrific race cars over the last few seasons, but have had problems finishing them. Walt Bora and then Steve Millen and some other drivers, and Tommy Riggins now riding in third spot, have had trouble bringing those cars home. But right now, sitting in third place with John Jones leading as they come off the Broad Street Bridge. Look at him slide down onto Washington Boulevard.
We saw a picture a few moments ago of Tommy Riggins. Earlier in this festival weekend, he won the Kelly American race and the entire series. So he's doing double duty this weekend as John Jones muscles that Mustang over the Town Street Bridge and back onto Civic Center Drive.
Well, Jack Roush, the guy that built the car that John Jones is running in, has had his cars dominate a great deal of this series so far. And it looks as if right now Jones is pulling out a little bit of a lead, maybe about 5 car lengths over Craig Carter. That Camaro, though, out of Indiana, has been a strong runner all season long. And we don't know. It could be his day here in Columbus, Ohio.
And look at this battle for third spot. That is Tommy Riggins in the Firebird, and right behind him the Thunderbird, leaving skid marks as he nailed the brakes. It looked like Darren Brasfield wanted to go into that corner a lot hotter than Tommy Riggins did.
Well, he got snookered a little bit on the start, remember, Steve. Riggins got underneath him going down to Marconi Street, and right now Riggins is pulling away a little bit from Brasfield.
Down into the keyhole comes that battle for third, the number 4 car, Tommy Riggins being chased by Darren Brasfield. Well, some months ago, drivers were talking about this Columbus course as if they expected it to be a parade, which sometimes can happen on poorly laid out street courses. But when they got here, boy, were they surprised. The guys that did this job knew what they were doing. Earlier, Brock Yates had a chance to talk to Darren Brasfield, currently in 4th place, about the course.
Well, I like it. The actual design is real fun. You know, you don't get, too tired, or it's not demanding. One of the biggest problems is it's not as fast as they thought it was going to be. Every corner is a second gear corner, and so it's a drag race to each corner and just brake as hard as you can, so it seems to be real hard on our brakes.
Well, that fellow you just heard from, Darren Brasfield, has been using more brakes out there than anyone else as he tries to take the 3rd spot away from Tommy Riggins and the number 4 Firebird.
Well, Steve, you can see that they're starting to move through some of the slower GTU traffic. Now, remember we said GTO, GTU is basically a difference in displacements that's over 3 liters, which is 180 cubic inches, and under 3 liters. So that's the basic split. There's some differences in displacement and weights, but that is essentially the difference between the 2 classes. As we watch the leader, John Jones, barrel down Front Street, hard brake, shift down to 2nd gear, and then accelerate out onto Spring Street with Craig Carter right behind him in the Camaro.
And as the field rockets by, coming right at us is the battle for the 5th spot. The 2nd Dingman Brothers car with off-road driver Steve Millen, and hot on his heels, Lynn St. James, the young lady from Florida, in another Roush-built Mustang.
And I'll tell you what, Steve, we've got a classic Ford General Motors battle shaping up here at Columbus. How about this? A Mustang leads it, a Camaro in 2nd, a Firebird 3rd, a Thunderbird in 4th, and another Firebird bringing up 5th spot.
And in the VIP suites here on the streets of Columbus, you can bet the ad agencies where all of those marks are represented. Everybody's got a full-page ad for tomorrow's USA Today. We just don't know yet who's going to get to place it.
And how about the fans lining this place? Lynn St. James, by the way, brings up 6th in yet another Ford product. So we've just got a terrific shootout. You pick them. Who do you want to win? Ford, General Motors. Stand up and cheer in your living room.
And so far, Brock, no attrition whatsoever. Everybody out there shifting the gears properly, rationing their brakes just enough to stay in the hunt here. Boy, the opening laps have been sensational. I got a feeling the entire race is going to be a dogfight when we come back to Columbus, Ohio.
Last year, Dodge made a very dramatic announcement. In a very dramatic way. We announce that every truck we build, every full-size pickup, van, wagon, and Ram Charger comes with our 5-year or 50,000-mile protection plan. And back then, we challenged Ford and Chevy to match that coverage. But you know what? Ford and Chevy still fall short.
Now you can get up to $1,000 cash back from Dodge on full-size pickups, vans, and wagons. Thanks again, America.
Till the rivers all run dry.
He's one of a kind, warm and honest. He's had #1 hits 9 years in a row, 13 gold albums. He's Don Williams.
Love is on a roll, love is on a good roll.
Now, 18 of his greatest hits are all on the very best of Don Williams.
I believe in Mom and Dad, and I believe in you. Lord, I hope this day is good, and I wouldn't want to live if you didn't love me.
It's not in any store.
Some road.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-468-1300, or to save all COD and handling charges and pay only $8.98 for the album, $9.98 for the tape. Send check or money order to Don Williams, care of TV offer, P.O. Box 10030, Stamford, Connecticut 06904.
Oh, hello there. Oh, I'm glad you stopped by. Oh, yeah, we're right here each and every Saturday for a full hour of your favorite country videos. We feature top recording artists and newcomers taking you through today's hottest country hits. Join me, Shotgun Red, as we capture your favorite superstars on Country Clips. Thanks.
That's Country Clips, Saturdays at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, and 3:30 p.m. Pacific on TNN, the Nashville Network.
Down there, they're racing in the streets of Columbus. That's the view from the Fuji blimp flying over the race course here as John Jones and company have at it. I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans and Ed Bruce. And right now it's GTU action, Steve.
That's right, the race within a race. And leading it is the yellow Fiero, number 55 of Bob Earl, followed by his team car, also owned by Joe Huffaker, Terry Visker in car number 50. Then the Dan Gurney-built Toyota of Chris Cord in the third spot.
Well, these guys have gone at it all season long. Joe Huffaker's driver, Bob Earl, has had a terrific season. This little mid-engined Pontiac that has come right out of nowhere, really dominate this series long time dominated by Mazdas, and then suddenly here came Earl in the Fiero.
Well, Earl got a late start. The series title has already been wrapped up in GTU by Jack Baldwin and his Mazda. Now here is the GTU race for the second spot. Car number 50 is Terry Visker, and hot on him is Chris Cord of the Toyota.
Well, Chris Cord has had his share of victories in this particular kind of racing with a number 99 Dan Gurney prepared Toyota. So we've got a couple of Fieros being trailed by that little Toyota of Chris Cord's. Interesting automobile in that Dan on occasion has turbocharged a similar automobile and run it in GTO. But right now, the only competition from Dan Gurney's shops is in GTU with Chris Cord up.
Well, Clay Young and Bob Earl have been the most talked about of the Fiero drivers, but how about Terry Visker? He is really shining here. Terry Visker's got a problem. Visker nose first into the wall on Lawn Street just before that turn onto Marconi. And Brockton, what do you think caused that?
I would imagine a brake locked up on Terry. He's going to try to limp it into the pits. The yellow is out on that corner, but we'll get another look at it as Chris Cord right behind Terry. Notice the car just spikes its way to the right. That's probably a left front brake that locked up on the car and just put him into the fence.
Oh, you're right. He had no control. And a man who had to try to anticipate which way he was going to go is Jack Baldwin in the blue and white Mazda. Nope, that's not where Jack wants to go, and barely skirts around Terry Visker.
That was a good job by Jack, of course, one of the best in this business. But he had a choice, inside or outside. As we watch Terry try to limp into the pits, and you can see the bodywork is scraping on both those front wheels, and he's going to have some problems. I think maybe a while in the pits before they get him on the racetrack again.
You're right. When they peel that fiberglass off, they're liable to find some broken suspension bits. Here is our leader, the Mustang, number 65 of John Jones. Not much has changed here. It's the couple of car licks behind him in second spot is the Camaro from Indiana of Craig Carter, car number 56. These guys lap after lap, Brock. The interval never changes.
Well, Tommy Riggins is right back there in third place, too. Don't forget him. So these three guys have pulled away a little bit from Darren Brass Brassfield, who has fallen back. You can see him there coming into the picture onto the bridge. But Darren, not quite in contention anymore, as Craig Carter, the man who has run so well in the Kelly series over the years, moved into the GTO category and is, again, with a beautifully prepared Camaro of his, right with the leaders. Look, he's going to try to put a move on Jones there as they head out past City Hall, but it wouldn't stick.
John Jones keeps trying to put some traffic between he and Craig Carter, but Carter has just been cagey enough to avoid that maneuver.
Well, you remember John told me when he was on the starting grid that traffic would be a major factor here, and of course he's so far used it to his advantage. But Craig Carter also has some short track stock car racing experience, and he's used to running fender to fender as well.
Oh, sure, and he's got about 10 years in the experience department that Jones lacks.
So there goes Tommy Riggins down into the hairpin. But look at this, Steve. Craig Carter in the hairpin at the end of Spring Street. Gets underneath John Jones, and here they come down Long Street. A drag race.
But John Jones is unleashing that forward power. Jones retakes the lead. Now Tommy Riggins is going to be a player here. Riggins in the third position of the Firebird. Riggins goes down low under Craig Carter. What a move he put on Carter.
Well, what happened was there was a lap car, that white Corvette, got in the way a little bit. Carter didn't have any choice, and Tommy, in a beautiful move, got underneath them as they went onto Marconi Boulevard. So Tommy Riggins takes over second place. And remember, Carter had the lead about 2 corners ago, and now he's back in third place.
Boy, how quickly his fortunes change.
Okay, what a good race here. There goes Tommy Riggins. Right behind him, Craig Carter trying to muscle his way past one of the slower Mazdas. So the race continues, and that little dust-up gave John Jones a little bit of an advantage. He pulled out to maybe 4 or 5 car lengths lead on Tommy.
You just saw the smile on Tommy Riggins' face. I think he's wearing it right now underneath that helmet.
All right. Tommy Riggins slides that Firebird. The Digman Brothers car out of Florida, beautifully prepared automobile with a bunch of power as they head down Front Street. And look at this, Steve. Darren Brassfield's moved in behind Craig Carter.
Darren Brassfield in that 4th position, just behind the blue and yellow Camaro number 56. There's the leader coming through your picture. That was John Jones. There is Tommy Riggins in the 2nd spot. Riggins is starting to narrow that gap. If he can stay away from that lap traffic, he may catch Jones yet.
A bunch of traffic out here. There goes Riggins underneath the slow guys. Good pass, but still, John Jones holds on. Boy, they're in the middle of traffic, Steve. This is going to take some serious maneuvering on the part of the leaders unless they lose some position. Remember the last time around here, Craig Carter fell way back when this man, Tommy Riggins, tries it again, the same place he passed Craig Carter to take second.
This is not a street race. This is a street fight.
John Jones got through there, though. Riggins gambled and lost. Of course, a hard break down in the inside of the corner got him offline a little bit, and he fell off the pace. So John Jones pulls out to about 3 car lengths as they head back across Washington Boulevard. But this man, Tommy Riggins, who we've seen run so well over the years, isn't about to give up.
And the race for third between the Camaro and the Thunderbird. Craig Carter, the blue and yellow number 56, and right on his bumper looking for any opening is Darren Brassfield, the Red Bird.
Darren Brassfield fell back for a while there, but now he's up to challenge. And I'll tell you what, this kid drives as hard as anybody in this kind of racing. He flat stands on the gas, but there, that Porsche got in his way a little bit, held him up, gives Craig Carter a little bit of an advantage. And remember, we said traffic was going to be a factor here all day long.
And you got to empathize a bit with Mark Altman in that number 31 Porsche. He's out there trying to run on his own race for position and stay out of Craig Carter's way to boot. That could be a tough thing on the driver.
It sure can, Steve, as the conditions are at best restricted here at Columbus. We'll be back with John Jones leading it in the Columbus Performance Classic.
Out on the town, flying around, keeps us disappear. Now you're talking Friday night, now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's is smoking here.
Stroh Light, smooth, refreshing, less filling.
Now you're talking Stroh's, now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's is smoking here.
Who's going to help the car buyer cut through all the confusion over finance rates? Who else? Chrysler Corporation, that's who. With cash, not confusion. $500 or $1,000 cash back on every car and truck we build in America. Need it for the down payment? Use it. Want the cash? Take it. 500 or 1,000 cash back. Plus our 550 protection plan. You made us the fastest growing car and truck company in America. So your Dodge dealers say, thanks again, America. And nobody says it better.
Hello, my friends. I'm Ralph Emery, inviting you to start your week with country music's best 90 minutes here on Nashville Now. And Monday, our guest will be the Bama Band, Big Merle Kilgore, and Judy Rodman. So join us for live entertainment from Opryland Monday night on Nashville Now from the Nashville Network.
Nashville. Its fame grew with the Grand Ole Opry. No wonder the best tour in town is with Grand Ole Opry Tours, the official tour company of the Grand Ole Opry. Conducted in comfortable air-conditioned buses, each with a trained Opry tour guide, Grand Ole Opry Tours lets you choose the tour that interests you most. See the state capitol, the homes of the stars like Johnny Cash, Ronnie Milsap, Minnie Pearl, and others. You can visit Nashville's unique Parthenon and other historical sites like President Andrew Jackson's beautiful mansion, the Hermitage. You'll see famed Music Row, center of Nashville's music industry. And you'll visit the Ryman Auditorium, former home of the Grand Ole Opry. Grand Ole Opry Tours even takes you backstage at the Grand Ole Opry House. For full information on tours available and for reservations, write Grand Ole Opry Tours, 2810 Opryland Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37214.
I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, and we are proud to be part of the inaugural street race here in Columbus, Ohio, the Columbus Performance Classic. And performance has been the word for today. You're looking right now at the GTU leader, the yellow machine, the Fiero number 55 of Bob Earl. Second place in the class is Chris Cord, car number 99. That is a Toyota. And a tribute to Bob Earl here, Brock, with all the high-powered GTO iron. His GTU Fiero is running 10th overall.
Right now, Steve, he's being challenged for 10th spot overall by Roger Mandeville, but that is a GTO car, and theoretically a much quicker car than Bob is driving. So Roger gets by him in a hairpin as they come down the Long Street straightaway. So that's sort of expected because Roger does have a stronger automobile, horsepower-wise, than Bob Earl.
And Mandeville getting by Earl doesn't bother Bob a bit, really, because he still leads the GTU class. It doesn't affect him at all.
Well, here are a couple of guys, though, that are plenty serious about second place overall in the GTU. That is Chris Cord in the 99 Toyota being chased by the current champion, Jack Baldwin. You know, Steve, Jack we know very well, a very, very competitive man who really dominated this class until very recently, until Chris got that Toyota running so well. And, of course, the two Fieros of Huppikers have just changed the complexion of this class entirely.
Oh, yeah, it's not quite as easy for Jack, but bear in mind, he did again this year win the title in the Malibu Grand Prix Mazda.
Well, here they come. Chris Cord down Washington Boulevard, and right behind him, Jack Baldwin. Jack, big, burly, tough guy, just manhandles that little car. You sometimes wonder he just isn't going to tear the gearbox right out of the thing just with sheer brute force. But a very, very capable and a lot of finesse considering the size of the man and the size of the automobile.
Always a great champion and a nice guy.
He sure is, as we watch Chris Cord in the 99 Toyota slide it up past City Hall. Right now in second spot in GTU. This man, though, leads it overall and in GTO, John Jones.
As far as the heavy metal is concerned, this man has led from the very start of this race. But he's getting some pressure from Tommy Riggins. Well, that pressure has been alleviated all of a sudden. Tommy Riggins is slowing. The number 4 Dingman Brothers Firebird is slowing and pulling off to the right.
Oh, boy, what a tough break. Riggins, who came out of the pack to jump into second place, falls back, and it looks, yeah, there go the brakes. Tommy is going to park that car out on the racetrack. It looks as if he's finished for the day, unless somehow he can get it back to the pits. But even then, considering the length of this race, that just literally takes him out of contention for a victory, Steve.
Oh, yeah, there's no such thing as a productive pit stop in a race this short. Now, Tommy Riggins, he didn't waste any time getting out of there in case somebody else ran out of brakes. Well, here is the guy who has now inherited that second place spot there in Brassfield.
Craig Carter also fell back there in that flurry, so Brassfield moves up. Remember, he started on the outside of the front row, right beside John Jones, fell back to fourth, and now is back up in the second.
Now, the Dingman brothers team can be consoled a bit over the loss of Tommy Ricketts, because now in third spot behind Darren Brassfield is their number 2 car with Steve Millen, who was a last-minute driver choice.
He sure was, Steve. Hardly even listened to the program. From New Zealand, Steve and his brother Rod are a couple of just super race drivers. They can do anything. Rod, a great rally driver. Steve, a terrific off-road racer and a great road racer of all kinds. Came in here, jumped into this car in the second Dingman Brothers automobile. Really, nobody paid a whole lot of attention to him when you get all the headline makers like Jones and the rest of them. But here he is up in third place as we watch Darren Brassfield muscle underneath a couple of slower cars, trying to stay in front of Millen, who moves in on him.
Look at Millen. He has closed that gap between third and second. Steve Millen, the New Zealander, as you said, putting on quite a show in the streets of Columbus. The Dingman brothers right now got to be high-fiving over their driver choice.
Boy, I'll bet. Because, of course, they lost their other car with Tommy Reagan's. But now, look at this. Slow but sure, he's moving in on Brassfield.
You know, Brock, as we look at all the fencing and the concrete barriers and the grandstands and everything it takes to turn a downtown metropolitan area into a safe, sane racetrack, you've got to admire the efforts of A-Rock, Auto Racing of Columbus. And right now, Ed Bruce is going to shed a little more light on that organization and all that they've managed to accomplish.
This is Alan Wilson, and he put all this together, I think a couple nights ago or something. Some of our Diamond P staff saw you walking the track at midnight. What were you doing?
Well, that happened every single night throughout the weekend. Basically checking, making sure that everything's been buttoned up and that we haven't overlooked any last-minute problems.
A lot of problems involved in organizing a first-time event.
A lot of problems, none of them insurmountable, just detail after detail after detail.
What kind of involvement or cooperation have you gotten from the community of Columbus itself?
Well, to be honest, it could never have happened without the sort of cooperation that we did receive. We've got about 3,500 volunteers on site today. We've got the city totally behind it, the mayor, the city engineers, the city traffic department. Everyone has put in so much time on this, it's unbelievable.
Looks like maybe there'll be a second time then, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, I think it's almost certain there'll be a second time.
Alan, thanks very much for talking to us. Let's go back to more racing.
Thanks, Ed and Alan, and our congratulations as well as we watch Millen moving in on Darren Brassfield ever closer, Steve. And it looks as if maybe Brassfield's brakes are locking up a little bit. We noticed that earlier in the race, every once in a while you see a little puff of smoke coming off that 77 Thunderbird.
Well, you know, Darren, he told you earlier how concerned he was about the brakes on that Thunderbird. Boy, look at this battle. That's a GTU car and a GTO car going at it.
Well, Steve, that's Danny Smith in the number 53 Mazda RX-7. That's the teammate of Roger Mandeville's. He's a GTO automobile. Right behind him, Chris Cord in the 99 Toyota. They're in a battle for 12th overall. Of course, Chris riding third in GTU.
Well, while we were watching Brassfield and Millen battling GTO, Jack Baldwin slipped right by Chris Cord to take over the second slot of the GTU class.
He sure did. So right now, though, it's this little battle for 12th overall that we're watching between Smith, who's a short track stock car driver by trade, Steve, came into road racing. He's got to feel pretty comfortable out here with all this fender banging going on at Columbus.
I'll tell you, Brock, a tip of mine to all the GTU drivers. They're out there with faster competition, trying to win their own class, stay out of the way of the GTO guys like Danny Smith and Roger Mandeville and all the rest of them. They are really in tough, and they do it well.
They sure do, Steve. And here is the quickest one of them all, Bob Earl. Earlier, Bob talked to us about what he felt about Columbus.
I like this track. They made this a little wider than most, which made it a little bit quicker, and you also have a little more room to use. But it's got some character to it. It's not a lot of 90-degree bends. It's got some sweepers and some tight stuff, and they lead into each other. And I kind of like that. It's a neat circuit.
It is so refreshing to hear race car drivers that aren't complaining about the course. They love it. And well, they should, the kind of action that's going on.
It sure is. It's like a big short track right here in the middle of Columbus as John Jones leads it. But Darren Brassfield steadily erodes that lead. He's moving in. We'll be back.
In 1985, the winning cars of the most prestigious auto races were equipped with Goodyear Racing Eagles. So it's small wonder that in 1986, most of the finest high-performance street cars are equipped with Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles, or you need them.
Look how water can destroy unprotected wood, but not if it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Use Thompson's Water Seal waterproofer on dozens of surfaces. Brush on Thompson's for an invisible barrier that helps prevent water from entering and damaging brick, wood, and concrete. Your house isn't really protected until it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Many stores now have special values on Thompson's Water Seal.
Farm Aid. It was America at its best. 12 hours of non-stop music and emotion, of sound and purpose. The focus, our #1 endangered species, the American farmer. The concert with Willie Nelson and America's greatest stars may be over, but the spirit of Farm Aid is very much alive. Souvenir T-shirts from the concert are still available, $7. Long-sleeve sweatshirts, $13. The popular Farm Aid cap is just $5. A button for just $2. Posters are $6.95. And the giant 4-foot-long panoramic color photo of the stadium crowd and stage at Champaign is just $20. They'll make great souvenirs, but most of all, they'll continue to help the cause of Farm Aid. Send check or money order plus $2 shipping and handling to Farm... Visa and MasterCard accepted, so call now.
Yes, we do have a new leader here in the streets of Columbus. Darren Brasfield has powered that brilliant red number 77 Thunderbird into the lead over John Jones. Jones right behind him in a Mustang.
You got to wonder whether Jones is having a little problem, Steve, because he really dominated the early stages of this race, but now Darren Brasfield works his way all the way back from 4th up into the lead, and right now he's moving in on Bob Earl. Bob, of course, leading GTU. This is not unexpected. A lot less horsepower there. So there goes Darren, blowing right past Bob. He still maintains the lead, though, of course, in the smaller class. Here comes John Jones around him as well. Jones got to be a little bit angry that he lost that lead after having held it so convincingly in the early stages.
And unfortunately for Jones, the timing was just wrong there. That Porsche got between he and the leader, Brasfield, but already he is blown by the Porsche and again set sail after a Ford teammate. And as Darren himself so accurately predicted before the race, look at the part that traffic is playing here. Threading the needle as Brasfield, unable to find that kind of daylight, is John Jones. It remains to be seen, really, whether Jones is having some kind of problem that may have cost him the lead. Earlier, Ed Bruce chatted with Alan Wilson, the executive director of Auto Racing of Columbus. Right now, Brock Yates is with another of the principals in the organization responsible for this.
You want to start a street race in your town? I've got a suggestion for you. First, you find a longtime resident of your city who's a successful businessman, and not only that, is a great racing champion. Go to him and say, Jim Truman, I'd like to start a race. How do I get going, and how do I lay it out in the center of my town like you did in Columbus?
Well, my first response last July, a year and a half ago, was that I didn't really want to be involved. I shouldn't say it that way, but what happened was we analyzed the race and realized that it could be done, and the best format to make it successful was the format we chose, which was for charity, which really got our business community involved very, very much so, and the city, the cooperation was tremendous. I think if we'd come in as a promoter, we'd still be working on red tape and what have you. So I think the city backed it very, very nicely. The business community certainly stepped up. Volunteers, outstanding. We've got volunteers working for us you couldn't hire. You know what I mean? $100,000 a year guys are out here working for the last 6 weeks. A good example of the cooperation is last night they had a workers' party for all the volunteers, and there were 4,000 people at the party. So that's what it takes, the cooperation and the desire to make it a successful race.
Jim, did you lay the course itself out?
Well, we had 3 or 4 guys working on it. We all got together. We didn't want it to be downtown looking between buildings. We've got a nice venue here with the river and all, where we've got some banks where general admission people can see a lot of the race. It was important to us to let everybody possible get in the race and have a chance to see something that perhaps they've never been able to see before or might not again.
Well, thanks, Jim. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you here next year.
For sure.
And the man who convinced Jim Truman to get involved, the father of this event, Mayor Dana Buck Reinhardt of the city of Columbus. Boy, here's a dandy race with the 6th position. Bruce Jenner in the Mustang just running away from us there. And on his tail trying to catch him is the red Porsche of Chet Vincent. That's for 6th place in GTO. You know, Bruce Jenner has done so many things, Olympic decathlon. He's kind of a growth industry. You see him in commercials, clothing wear line, everything. But out here, he really has fun. I noticed that in qualifying, and I had a chance to talk to Bruce earlier. Would he race more if all of his various enterprises permitted him the time to do so? Here's what he had to say.
The schedule's not as bad as it is the finances behind it. I can usually clear my schedule. Next year, I'm trying to get to run at least 15 to 16 races on the circuit, because now that NBC got the games, I'm afraid they're going to put me to work here in the next couple of years. So I figure next year is my only year I got where I can have a little bit of free time. But I'm going to try to run the entire series. We're talking with sponsors right now. The problem I have when I come to a race like this is, like, I haven't driven a car in 6 weeks. I mean, there's no testing, no nothing. I mean, I'm just going out there cold. And where these other drivers have had 2 races in that time, and little mentioned testing and practice and whatever. Testing, practice, I come to the races and drive. And unfortunately, I've been able to stay competitive with everybody. I'm right in there. I've been in the top 5 every race this year. But I never quite feel comfortable until about the last 5 laps of the race. And then I think, well, okay, now we should start. I'm starting to feel good. And that only comes with experience and just, spend a lot of time in the car.
Interesting man, Steve. You know, he didn't really start the race until long after he was a great star in track and field. So the man has great latent talent. Interesting, if he had started out to be a race driver, he might be a world champion now. Look at this.
Darren Brasfield is in the pit. Car number 77, the leader, has got a problem. They are in the pit area. As I said earlier, there's no such thing as a productive pit stop. And there is the sign. Cut the motor. We are done.
What a shame. Darren Brasfield, one of the real young Chargers here in this kind of racing, out for the day as the rear end appears to have come apart on that number 77 Thunderbird. So, John Jones back in the lead here at Columbus. Stay with us.
Here's Art Linkletter with an opportunity for people ages 50 to 74.
How many times have we all wished we could turn back the clock and get a second chance? Now, take buying life insurance, for example. Wouldn't it be nice to be 25 again and pay a fraction of the cost that you and I do and be guaranteed term life insurance? The kind experts say is your best buy. Now, for just $5 a month, you can, because one life insurance company, National Home Life, doesn't believe you're 50 to 74 years old, but 50 to 74 years young. And for only $5 a month, you can be guaranteed acceptance in this valuable life insurance program. Now, guaranteed means without a physical examination, without answering difficult health questions. In a word, you simply cannot be turned down if you're 50 to 74 years young. And remember this, your $5 a month actually buys you more protection than with any other type of life insurance, because this is term life insurance. Without complicated investment features to increase the cost. This is money that will be paid directly to your family when they need it most. National Home Life would like to send you a free information package detailing their remarkable $5 a month term life insurance program. And I frankly urge you to take advantage of the opportunity. It isn't often people our age get a second chance when it comes to buying life insurance, and rarely for only $5 a month. Now, here's the number to call.
If you are ages 50 to 74, call 1-800-742-1212 for information on the $5 a month term life insurance plan that Mr. Linkletter spoke of. That's 1-800-742-1212. The information is free, and so is the call. That's 1-800-742-1212.
John Jones, the young Canadian Series champion who led this race for so many laps, has now parked it. He is out of this race. Darren Brasfield, the Ford Thunderbird number 77, his car is headed for the barn. Already in the barn is Craig Carter, number 56. Have we ever seen some changes in the last few laps here in Columbus?
Boy, Steve, there's no joy in Dearborn today. 2 of their heavy hitters on the sideline. Their hopes lie right now with this young lady. That's Lynn St. James and her Mustang. She has moved up into 2nd place. An excellent piece of work by a gal that's done just super job all season long. Earlier, we talked to Lynn about her car.
car is really well prepared, so as long as I don't abuse it out there, it should definitely be able to go the distance. I mean, it's going to be hard on brakes, it's going to be hard on tires, and it's going to be hard on, you know, but you got to lean on it. So, but the car is ready for it. It's just now, you know, how the race turns out.
Mostly second gear corners?
Yeah, almost every turn second gear, but you can really get on the power and come out of it. That's what's nice, is that you're coming onto a 6-lane highway on most of these turns, coming off of the turn, so you're able to still really get on the power and come through. We're not being choked all the time as we are at a lot of street courses.
Lynn, who's done an excellent job winning a couple of these races already this season, on her way perhaps to a victory here, or maybe second place if she can stay in the race. But there have been so many retirements, including Lynn's Ford stablemates Darren Brassfield and John Jones. And of course, Craig Carter disappeared as well. Steve is with Craig in the pit area.
Craig running a strong second among a sea of Fords, and then all of a sudden, goodbye.
Well, my gearbox gave up on me. We used a small motor in this race. We had a 305, and of course that let us run 100 pounds lighter than the Fords, anticipating burning out a few people's brakes, running them down, and I'm certain that's the way it would have went. But the gearbox retired a little earlier than we wanted to.
So this course, no more punishing on gearboxes than any other, really.
This course is brutal on gearboxes.
Is it?
Well, you're making about 8,000 gear shifts a lap. You know, I don't know how many gear shifts there are, but there's a bunch of them, and it gets quite a workout.
Well, a good effort. You really hung in there.
Thank you.
All right, this man in this Camaro, that is Ken Murray, who's moved all the way up into third place, Steve.
Well, who is Ken Murray, and what is he doing in third place? He just kind of snuck his way in there, and somewhere it snuck his way by Bruce Jenner. Jenner is now in the 4th spot of the number 63 Mustang. There's old Ken.
And sliding it through the corner here onto Marconi Boulevard. He's using all the racetrack, I'll tell you that, Steve. That Firebird, well-prepared car. He just kind of, oh, look at this. Got a little over-enthusiastic coming out of the Broad Street Bridge. Tries to loop it back around, but I don't know. Do you think he can hold off Jenner?
Boy, that's going to be tough. Murray lost all his momentum, scrubbed up the speed in the spin. Jenner looking to the outside as they turn onto Washington. Now moving down to the inside. Let's see if Jenner's got the muscle. Murray hanging in there.
But look at this. Bruce on the inside as they head down to the corner onto the Town Street Bridge. And he does take back that 3rd spot from Ken Murray. Tough break for old Ken. Got up there and did a good job, and then just maybe a little lapse in concentration, and that was enough to lose him a spot.
Well, taking all those turns so wide was bound to catch up with him somewhere, Brock.
Sideways as we watch Bruce Jenner duck in, head up that little short chute past City Hall.
You know, Brock, every organization has to start somewhere with one man. Ed Bruce right now is with the man responsible for the IMSA racing organization. Ed?
A longtime friend of racing and certainly an expert on GT racing. This is John Bishop, who's the president of IMSA. John, this is a beautiful facility here, a great course, the way it's laid out. What kind of future do you see for street racing in America?
Well, I see a permanent future for it. Not at the expense of the permanent circuits, but as an adjunct to it. I think there's a good balance to be achieved. A number of major cities and markets are now open to this kind of racing, exposing this sport to a whole lot of new people. It's bringing racing to the people instead of the people to racing at the permanent circuits. These races are very risky, however, financially. They're enormously expensive, as you can see. And I calculated there must be at least 9 miles of cable, for example, strung in these barriers. But so far, the experience has been very positive. The Miami Grand Prix stands out. This race here could be one of our biggest events. The circuit is beautiful. Of course, the contestants love it. They love the treatment they're getting.
Well, I certainly hope for bigger things for you. John, thanks for talking to us. Going back to Brock and Steve for more racing.
Thanks, Ed. I think the key word from John Bishop, Brock, was event. They're more than a race when you put them in the streets.
Boy, how right you are, Steve, as we watch Bruce Jenner try to extend his lead over Ken Murray. Murray, of course, held on for a while, but now Jenner seems to have moved out a little bit. But well in front of him, of course, is his teammate, Lynn St. James, and this man leads it here at Columbus. That, of course, is Steve Millen in the Dingman Brothers Firebird.
And he has got to be thrilled. A Kiwi from New Zealand who signed on late here, kind of got in line to see who was going to drive that car. They had been their major hope on Tommy Riggins, who went out early. And look at smiling Steve Millen. He can drive anything with wheels on it, I think, Brad.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, the way he runs an off-road vehicle in those terrific events out west, he may be looking for some bumps here. As Steve Millen leads it, Lynn St. James, the only lady in the race, right up there in second place.
It's me again to tell you all you get by ordering Sports Illustrated now.
Jack, this is a little different, so would you try and get it right this time?
Okay,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Alzado.
Go.
Sports Illustrated not only gives you unbeatable weekly football coverage, they'll knock you over with their big 1986 college and pro football spectacular.
And it is spectacular.
Oh, it's filled with football, full-color football, a bright look at the players and teams and the games they play. It's lots of great stuff you won't find anywhere else.
And you won't find this anywhere else either.
You also get the famous annual swimsuit issue. As always, a beautiful preview of what's new under the sun. It's all yours. And by ordering now, you get over 40% off the cover price.
Give him 50.
50?
Over 50.
Okay, you get over 50% off the cover price. So you'll get 27 issues at the low basic rate, payable in 3 monthly installments of only $9.79. And if you prefer, use your credit card. But don't miss the weekly coverage of Sports Illustrated. What more could you want? Just call this toll-free number and you'll
Jack, I got something for you.
Free?
Free.
You also get free this handy 1986 Major League Baseball schedule.
And this.
And this great commemorative pin. It's free, too.
Yeah. And this.
Hey, it's a chronograph. So it works as a stopwatch with split-second timing. And also as a calendar, giving you the day and date, plus it's a clock with digital readouts of the hour, minute, and second. It's all that, all in one.
And what else is it, Jack?
It's fun.
Right. Right. And it's free.
Free? This great chronograph is free with your paid subscription.
Right.
With Sports Illustrated, you not only get a lot of sports, you get a lot more.
And a lot of it's free. But to get it all, you better call now.
I do what he says. It won't take long. I'll time you.
Right. Call now. 1-800-372-5005.
It's free, too.
The pictures provided us today, courtesy of the Fuji blimp high over the streets of Columbus. Absolutely sensational. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce. And let's check in a little bit on the GTU category. It is still being led by that beautiful little 55 Fiero of Bob Earl.
What a job he's done. Right behind him, Jack Baldwin and Chris Cord in third place. That, of course, are 3 different makes, a Pontiac Fiero, a Mazda RX-7, and a Toyota. So an interesting race, but Earl really has dominated here. He's done a terrific job. That, of course, Jack Baldwin manhandling that RX-7 around here in second spot. Jack trying to make up some distance on the leader. We've talked a little bit about Jack Baldwin and his aggressive driving style. Earlier, Steve had a chance to discuss this racetrack with him.
You're the kind of guy I would call a physical race car driver. You're faced with a very physical racetrack.
Yeah, this is a real physical racetrack. You know, it's hard on brakes especially. I can't believe how hard on brakes it really is. We put new pads on this morning, went out, broke them in. We've never had any brake trouble whatsoever. We've got brake problems now. So it's going to take a little different philosophy. You know, Steve, you know, I like to run really hard and get to the front and stay at the front, lead every lap, that kind of thing. I think to win a race today, it's going to take a little different philosophy. I'm trying to figure out exactly what that philosophy ought to be.
And beware, everybody, there may be a man out there driving around with no brakes.
If it takes that to win, you can be sure Baldwin will do it. But right now, he may be trying to conserve those brakes and hoping that maybe Bob Earl out front will run out of him, Steve, as we watch Chris Cord slide out onto Spring Street. He, of course, is sitting in third place in GTU.
Well, you Porsche fans, something could happen here for fourth position. This is Chet Vincenz, yes, with the headlights on. Vincenz is making a move on Ken Murray for the 4th spot. Murray, who had been up as far as 3rd, he spun, Jenner got around him, and now he has been pushed back to 5th. Chet Vincenz takes Porsche power into that 4th slot. And you know it's turbocharged when you see all the flame come out of the back of it when he gets off of the pedal. That car's got over 60,000 hard racing miles on it, not counting practice or tire testing. 60,000 race miles. You know, John Jones was on the pole, heavily favored to win this race. Well, he fell out along with Darren Brassfield and another Ford product, but he's had a terrific season winning the title. Brock is with him in the pit area right now.
Well, the tire behind us tells the story why the leader, John Jones, fell out. John, obviously nothing he can do about that. Halfway around the racetrack, and you couldn't get it back in for a tire change.
No, the tire blew so bad, and when it blew, I was sliding around trying to keep it under control because it just sort of went. And the motor stalled, and then I couldn't get the car restarted, and I was going to try to limp it back, but I couldn't get things going again, so that put me out.
How did you feel? You were holding off Darren pretty well. Did you feel that you had the race in hand?
Well, it was a tough race, and from the word go, I had someone push me hard. First, Craig Carter was there, and then Tommy Riggins, then Darren caught up. You know, and they're all having a good shot at me, but I was really enjoying it out there. It was a good race, and I mean, they pushed me hard, but it was fun to have to run away from them and try to get the distance. And I was feeling pretty good. My brakes were holding up well, and I wasn't trying to push the car hard, and I thought I'd have a good run at it. I mean, I was just trying to run the race and get towards the end and then really push it hard from there, and unfortunately, things didn't work out. I didn't get to the end.
Well, as far as you went, you did a super job. We're sorry you left so early.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
That young man has got star written all over him. And look at the race continuing here between the lights on Porsche of Chet Vincent and Ken Murray in the Firebird. The Firebird goes under the turbo Porsche. Ken Murray really putting on a whoa, and he tags the rail again with the Firebird. I'll tell you, he's all over the track.
He gets a lot of points for trying, though. I'll tell you what, Ken Murray gave it everything he had. Outbraked Chet Vincent to that lighter Porsche, but just got off that hairpin too hard and then fell back. So Chet Vincent hangs on and pulls some real distance between Ken Murray, who continues to try back there with that Firebird.
Well, Vincent's trying to put a little distance between he and Murray. I'm sure he's looked at his mirror and say, that is a wild man in that red Firebird. And now he's managing to do that. But here comes Murray. Boy, he's got the bit in his teeth. He is not about to give up. This guy, he kind of smelled and felt what it was like to be in third place, and he wants it back.
Well, Steve, it may be that Ken's tires are starting to go away from him. A lot of oil and rubber down in this racetrack. Steve Millen continues to lead it. Lynn St. James sits back there in second, ready to make a move.
Hi, I'm Roy Rogers.
And I'm Dale Evans.
We'd like to invite you to join us in an exciting Western adventure right here on Happy Trails Theater.
Each week, you'll see one of our action-packed movies from yesteryear.
Along with Dale Evans and me, there'll be old Gabby Hayes, Bob Nolan and Sons of the Pioneers, and of course, Trigger.
So join us right here on the Nashville Network.
Right. Saturdays at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 2 p.m. Pacific on TNN.
Look how water can destroy unprotected wood, but not if it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Use Thompson's Water Seal waterproofer on dozens of surfaces. Brush on Thompson's for an invisible barrier that helps prevent water from entering and damaging brick, wood, and concrete. Your house isn't really protected until it's protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Many stores now have special values on Thompson's Water Seal.
Hi, I'm Janet Tyson.
And I'm Greg Crutcher. Watch Country Notes every Saturday for all the news in country.
Last week's show featured Waylon Jennings, the Oak Ridge Boys, Charlie Daniels, and Hank Williams Jr.
Also, Lone Star newcomers, the Maines Brothers, and high-powered country musicians play alongside the Nashville Symphony.
Be sure to watch Country Notes for all the facts and features in country music.
That's Country Notes every Saturday right here on TNN.
Boy, that is not exactly a cheap seat for this Columbus street race. I'm Steve Evans, along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, as the beautiful hot air balloon floats high over the skyline of Columbus. But smoking down on the pavement is Steve Millen in the number 5 Dingman Brothers Firebird. All the talk, Brock, in stock car road racing this year has been about the Fords, the Thunderbirds, the Mercuries. Somehow that word didn't get to New Zealand. Nobody told Steve Millen you're not supposed to win with a Firebird.
Boy, he's just stretching it out right now. Yes, Lynn St. James holds down to second place. Bruce Jenner well back in third. Chet Vincent and Ken Murray still hammering on each other for that 4th spot. Right now, Chet's got himself a little bit of a lead, but enthusiasm, he's not out of it by any means. Okay, here comes Chet Vincent tucking in beside Don Walker out of Dallas, Texas. And that old M1 BMW, not a factor here today. Barrels on by, and right behind behind him there in the Firebird, that red number 6, our man Ken.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you, a knowledgeable fan has been watching Ken, but keep his eye on him if he was last. This is a desperate man.
Doing a good job here. Boy, he's having some fun. And here comes Vincent. Boy, you see that bump, Steve, that Vincent jumps across on that Spring Street straightaway. That's the place where Millen really likes to go, I'll bet.
Well, Millen, the off-road racer, I'm sure that bump doesn't bother him a bit. Chad Vincent checks the mirrors and finds that 2 cars back. There's that Ken Murray still stalking him.
Right underneath that bridge as they head down toward the Marconi Street corner. Vincent's a lot of that fire coming out of that little portion. That's just wastegate exhaust as he tries to extend his lead over Ken Murray.
The only fire coming out of Murray's ride is out of his eyes. Whoa! Murray backs it into the wall. Ken Murray, and here he comes again. I'll tell you, this man can go places.
Boy, I'll tell you what, he bounced off that tire wall. He was coming off the tire wall as fast as he went into it. Didn't lose more than about 2 seconds, I would say, Steve.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a guy to watch next year. I'll fly to wherever this guy drives.
Ken Murray, off the corner on Washington Boulevard and onto the Town Street Bridge. He's still in the hunt, though, I'll tell you what.
Well, I'll tell you, that is one hot dog race car driver. You know, we've been talking about the festival atmosphere this weekend. The GTP cars have been here. Well, Brock checked in one of the GTP trailers. He didn't find a car.
Well, Steve, you know, you and I have been in a lot of high-tech race trucks over the years, and you know as well as I do that they're really rolling machine shops. But I've got something new for you. Ron Pauly and Don Marsh and his son Kelly from Columbus, Ohio, escalated the high-tech wars way, way beyond anything you and I have ever seen. First of all, how about a hot dog machine? Got a coffee machine, of course, we've seen those before, but a regular buffet here, topped off with a really neat little hot dog machine for the guys to keep their tummies full with when the race is over. And wait till you see this. Their own personal, private popcorn machine. Now, Evans, I'm going to get one for me, and I'm going to put you on the tab, but you do owe me $1, and I know you're good for it.
I am not paying you $1. It's for a half-empty box of popcorn and a stale dog.
Well, we get one of those later on, but right now it's our man, Steve Millen, out front here and just stretching it out, Steve. He is pulled away pretty steadily from Lynn St. James and has real command of this race as he comes down that Spring Street straightaway. Right now, though, a bunch of slower traffic in front of him. This is where the tricky stuff comes in on a tight race course like this. But you know, Steve, Millen is so experienced in so many different kinds of automobile racing that I reckon he's got this thing pretty well in hand right now.
Well, I don't think the concrete walls intimidate him at all. In fact, if you put some cactus and some pucker bushes out there, he'd probably go quicker. I think he was on the Baja.
I think if you plowed this thing up and let him run on the dirt, he'd like it a lot better. This man is a terrifically versatile race driver. Not that well known in this kind of racing, but you go to an off-road course on the West Coast and everybody knows him by his first name.
I'll tell you, Mickey Thompson doesn't even want to hold an event if Millen doesn't come, because some of the fans won't either.
So showing an awful lot of discipline here. Really a sanitary piece of race driving. Not a whole lot of sideways motoring. You might expect a guy like Millen to just hair it around here in a really kind of ragged fashion, but boy, showing real sanitary driving style.
And also back there in second spot, Lynn St. James doing her good workman-like job here. She had a first co-driving with John Jones at Road America. That was the first time a lady ever won an IMSA GTO race. She was supposed to co-drive a week ago at Watkins Glen with Whitney Gantz, but every time poor old Whitney opened the door, she slammed it on his hand, went all 500 kilometers by herself, and won it.
That's a totally different racetrack than here at Columbus. And, you know, we talked earlier about creating this racetrack. Steve earlier had an opportunity to look at the way this thing was built.
Street racing became a safer and more practical activity some years ago when the organizers of the Long Beach, California race came up with this idea: precast concrete walls. Now, the sections are 10 feet long, weigh 9,000 pounds apiece. In the bottom of each section is a nut so that they can be forklifted on and off of a flatbed truck. Also, at the end of each barrier, a pair of very heavy-duty cable loops so that fencing can be very easily installed. Now, there's thousands of them in the streets of Columbus today at a cost of over $750,000. But ask any driver who's ever hit one. They will last forever.
I suppose you could ask Ken Murray. He'll tell you. and a terrific job on the way this racetrack was designed. Columbus really added to the overall design and technology of street racing barriers, Steve.
And no one has been more complimentary about the entire setup here in Columbus than Lynn St. James. And she's driven a lot of street races. She says this is the best ever, and they did it the first time out.
So Lynn St. James slides her Mustang out onto the front street straightaway here, holding on to second place. But I'll tell you what, Steve, unless Millen bobbles or breaks, I'm not sure whether the lady's got a chance to pull him in.
Well, all she can hope for, and Bruce Jenner for that matter back in the third spot, is to find Millen along one of these walls somewhere. That's the only way they're going to catch him.
And there goes Lynn by a little piece of debris on the racetrack as we watch Bruce Jenner on Civic Center Drive. Now, Steve, he's about a third of a lap behind her. So not much chance for Bruce to catch up unless, of course, she has some problems.
Well, Bruce has got to be very pleased with his performance. He has finished in the top 5 a couple of races this season, but this would be his best finish all year long, I do believe, and he did it with very little practice or preparation. The shadows are lengthening here in the streets of Columbus as the final laps are coming up in the Columbus Performance Classic. We'll be back for the action. Stay with us.
Barbecues and cowboy shoes, guitars and high gear. Now you're talking country, now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's are spoken here.
Stroh's, fire brewed for smooth, consistent taste.
Now you're talking Stroh's, now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's are spoken here.
The 85 SCCA GT1 champion, tires Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 Nissan 300 ZX Turbo, tires Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. The 85 showroom stock GT champion, tires Goodyear Racing Eagles. The 86 Corvette, tires Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
Music lovers everywhere, Tina Turner goes country.
A long time forgotten, our dreams that just fell by the way.
Hear Tina as she sings.
Stand by your man, my love is...
Tina Turner explodes in a giant country album sold in stores, a true collector's item.
Ooh, if it's all right with you, I want to stay.
Tina Turner goes country. Here's how to order.
Call toll-free 1-800-468-5200. That's 1-800-468-5200. Use your Visa or MasterCard. Order your Tina Turner Goes Country album now. 1-800-468-5200. That's 1-800-468-5200.
Oh, hello there. Oh, I'm glad you stopped by. Oh, yeah, we're right here each and every Saturday for a full hour of your favorite country videos. We feature top recording artists and newcomers taking you through today's hottest country hits. Join me, Shotgun Red, as we capture your favorite superstars on Country Clips. Thanks.
That's Country Clips, Saturdays at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, and 3:30 p.m. Pacific on TNN, the Nashville Network.
That's Columbus, Ohio down there. The Columbus Performance Classic continues to unreal on the downtown city streets. We've got this aerial view from the Fuji blimp as we watch Bob Earl continue to dominate the GTU class, Steve Evans.
And right behind him, the series champion, who may not win this race today, though, Jack Baldwin, is still a few car lengths behind Bob Earl, and Earl is able to keep him there at bay. The scenario remains the same in the third slot. That is Chris Cord of the Toyota. It has always just mystified me how they know that, let's say, a Bob Earl is running 7th overall ahead of GTO cars. Scoring these races is a big job. And earlier, Brock had a chance to talk to the lady who is acknowledged worldwide as the best at it.
Everybody thinks about going to an automobile race and standing up. And, of course, aside from the race drivers in the cars who sit down, everybody pretty much spends the day on their feet, except perhaps for this lady who is a very noted fixture in most of the great races around the world. Judy Stropus is a member of a very elite group of people who time and score the major races. And Judy is well known both here and in Europe for taking care of the scoring for a bunch of teams. In fact, here at Columbus, she's got 13 teams. Is that right, Judy, that you're going to take care of and keep track of those cars on the racetrack throughout the entire event?
Yes, well, actually, I keep track of all the cars in the race, but I give those teams specific information as to where they are, what information they need that relates to their position, and we put it on our little computer, and we have monitors down the pits, about 3 monitors that my teams can look at during the race, so they don't have to come and bother me.
So you sit here right at the entrance of the pits and actually keep track of the passage of each one of the cars in the race. Do you keep track of all the cars?
Yes. I keep track of all the cars. I make note of their pit stops. I make note of who's lapped whom. And I feed it into, I give a sheet to my assistant who puts it into the little computer that feeds the information down to the other pits. And it gives them whether they're a lap down or lap ahead or on the same lap as who and the lap number and that type of thing.
How long have you been doing this?
20 years.
I know you sat in the cold and the rain, and now but you're getting more prepared. I notice you got a little roof here, and you're all ready for almost anything, because I know you've done Le Mans, you've done a lot of the great endurance races, and you stay up, don't you? Mm-hmm. You're there.
I'm there for 24 hours straight.
What about, what is the most difficult part of timing and scoring an event?
I think the most difficult races to do are like the Indy races, the Indy 500, because of the speeds and the short lap times that they have. Those are the most difficult, and sometimes you have to use a different system. But the most difficult part of it is just the concentration to be able to give the team your information, because you're not sitting here just doing this for yourself. You're doing this for the team, and they have to come and ask you. They have to bother you. That's why I have the computer, and so maybe they can bother me less. But you have to have the concentration. You have to have the concern and care that these people need to know the information, and they rely on it, and they really appreciate it.
Every time a car comes by here now, you visually watch the car go by, and then you write the car number down. Is that right?
Yes, as they all come by, I see them, I anticipate them, and I write them down as they come down in their appropriate laps, so that when they're lapped, it'll show up. It's a very basic system. It's just a matter of seeing and applying it, and when they start lapping each other, that you know where they go. And especially in the pace, when they have a pace car, a yellow flag in the pace car, and they all bunch up, and now they're all in different laps, and 10 of them go into the pits, and 12 of them stay out, and some stay in longer than others, and sometimes the pace car picks up the wrong leader, and it mixes up things, and that's when the crews really have no idea, and they rely on me entirely. And that's the hardest part, is when they restart the race after a pace car situation. They're all in bunches, and they're all on different laps.
And I'll tell you what, if you don't think they rely on this lady, there have been a lot of situations and a lot of races around the world where there's been a little bit of a foul up as far as the official scoring, and kind of the word goes up and down pit row. What's Judy say about it? And people come down and talk to her and look over her shoulder, and more than once they've looked at this lap chart and said, maybe we better go by what the lady says. She's one of the best. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Brock.
Yeah, more than once it's been you or I asking the lady what was going on.
Well, right now we don't have to ask the status of this particular guy. That is Steve Millen, and he is way out front on his way to what may be a victory here. All he's got to do is complete one more lap here, Steve Evans.
And what a solid hour of GTO, GTU racing this has been. The favorites like Jones and Brassfield and Carter going out early. The throws of a Charger like Ken Murray, and an upset by a man from New Zealand. It appears to be an upset in the making anyway.
And remember this, that his teammate Rickens went out early in the going, and the Dingman brothers looked as if they might have been headed for another day of DNFs. But at this particular moment, it is Millen heading up the hill for what could be his first victory this season.
And there it is, the checkered flag. The first ever IMSA victory for Steve Millen. And how about this crew, the Dingman brothers? What confidence this was for next season.
Well, they had a start of a very disappointing day. Out early in the going, and Steve Millen was well back when he goes on to win it, as may very well be the case with this man. Bob Earl about to complete his final lap. Victory in GT.
A soft-spoken, very intelligent man from Northern California, driving for the Joe Huffaker team. He, too, had a teammate who went out a shut with the wall, but not so number 55. I think he can do it.
He's got a challenge back there, well back from Jack Baldwin, but right now the race is all his. Mandeville in the 38 RX-7. Believe it or not, that is a GTO car. Just to give you an idea of the performance that Bob Earl has with that little mid-engine Fiero. Oh, Mark Altman in the number 31 Porsche almost ruined Bob Earl's day. If he'd have bent some suspension or torn up a tire, it could have cost Bob the victory here.
Headed for the very last turn of the lap onto Front Street. The flag will be out for the Fiero number 55, driven by Bob Earl. So it is Steve Millen winning GTO. Bob Earl waving to the crowd, winning in GTU. And you know, Brock, we talked about all the hard work on behalf of the volunteers, setting up the course, the Judy Strobuses of the world, scoring all of these cars. Well, I'll tell you what, no one worked harder than the technical staff of this telecast. 20 cameras in all, utilized for this 10 miles of cable strung in the middle of the night to avoid startling traffic during the daytime. And a tip of our hat to Galen Holloway and Don Claggett of our crew for a job well done. Mission impossible. They did it.
A lot of people say televise a street race like this, especially in the amount of time that these guys they had to set up. Remember last week they were just up the road in New York State at Watkins Glen. They came down here and just rigged this place, wired it, sound and sight, in one of the best jobs we've ever seen done in such a short notice.
And you know, Brock, the whole downtown area of Columbus is dedicated to fun. There's banners everywhere for the fun of it. Mayor Buck Reinhardt, that's the direction he's taken. And I'll tell you, any city that's concerned about the decay ought to take a look at Columbus, Ohio.
Absolutely, Steve. A lesson encouraged by this very progressive city. As we'll be back to talk with the winners as we put a capper on the first Columbus Performance Classic.
Another reason Bob Glidden is the 1985 NHRA